The United States is closing its embassy in Kyiv and temporarily relocating to western Ukraine. The move is the latest sign that allies are bracing for a Russian invasion, potentially any day now. Sky News Washington correspondent Annalise Nielsen joins us live now. Annalise, there has been a phone call between the US and the UK. What's the latest to come out of that?
This is the latest iteration that they do still think that diplomatic routes could work, but the window is rapidly closing with speculation, much of it driven by Ukraine's president, that an invasion could happen as early as Wednesday. This has come off the back of what we know as months of speculation, but what the pressure point has been adding is around the extra firepower being brought to the border between Russia and Ukraine, not just the 100,000 troops there. There was a readout of the phone call between the Prime Minister of United Kingdom, Boris Johnson, as well as the US President Joe Biden. In this phone call, they've said the leaders emphasised that any further incursion into Ukraine would result in a protracted crisis for Russia, with far-reaching damage for both Russia and the world. They also reiterated the need for European countries to reduce their dependence on Russian gas, a move which, more than any other, would strike at the heart of Russia's strategic interests. That's been a key point of contention, of course, with Germany, with the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill today in the US are being briefed on this, being told about the possible sanctions against Russia, and there has been a strong push from both sides, but more so from the Republicans, about sanctions against the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which the President, Joe Biden, has backed in, as well as the tensions do mount. But Russia, for its side, has said that there is just growing hysteria on the allies' side, European allies, and they've reiterated that they really just have the same demands of NATO that they did before, that Ukraine, I should say, needs to be locked out, and that they want to see further pushback of especially US, but also UK and other NATO allies from their border.
Yeah, Annalise, interesting when you speak to anyone from the Ukraine, they believe that sanctions would be perhaps the most effective deterrent here. I know in the readout there was talk of sanctions, but no detail. Is there any talk of also invoking the Magnitsky Act?
Yeah, look, the discussion around sanctions has been a complicated one, and the Biden administration is asked about this continuously, about whether they're going to reveal any details of these sanctions that have been proposed. And the thing is, they don't want to show their hand in this case. They want to be able to see exactly what they can use depending on the pressure points that Russia exposes for themselves. And so the talk has been also about preemptive sanctions. I mean, you could sanction Russia even for having the troops along the border there between Ukraine. And even you've noticed a certain change of language about what's been an incursion of Ukraine. They've previously said if there's any further incursion, and that's quite specific too, because there shouldn't be the troops where they are now. But for the most part, that just shows that for the US, for NATO, for most of Europe, every single option is still on the table, and that means that there could be further also military capabilities brought there as well.
Yeah, interesting then. The build-up has not stopped. In fact, it's increased over the last couple of days. Annalise, thank you. We'll check in with you soon.